My name is Elena. I've been a software engineer for about a decade now, and in my time I have worked with public sector, private sector, third sector, basically worked on a load of systems for all sorts of different organizations in weird and wonderful teams. And right now I'm going to talk about my newest virtual team. So about a year ago, if you'd asked me if AI was going to take my job and replace me, I would have said no, confidently, maybe a little bit defensively. But then I joined a company called We Build AI, and they build AI. And one moody, cloudy March afternoon, I got pulled into a meeting and my worst fear came true. I was told to replace myself with AI. In reality, it wasn't all that dramatic. We Build AI as a consultancy. A client engagement was being lined up for me. And while I had been on the bench at the time, I started working on their business management system, so timesheets, all that jazz. And I needed to step away. I needed to step away from that project so that I could do my client work. And in order for me to fully step away, I decided to hand the reins over to Ralph Wiggum. So in this talk, we'll briefly touch on what is Ralph Wiggum, run through 3 of the runs that I did, and talk about some learnings. So for those that don't know, the Ralph Wiggum loop is named after the Simpsons character. It's a relatively very simple idea. You basically give it a plan, it implements it, you define some quality gates, it checks against them, it reviews the work that it's done. If any of the acceptance criteria hasn't been met, it didn't implement anything fully, it just goes back to go and completes, tries again until it's done. So yeah, that's how it runs. All right. So this is a little bit more about the setup. The Ralph Wiggum loop actually comes from awesomeclaude.ai. It's a Claude Code plugin that you can install. The setup itself, I'm not going to go into full detail about it. I just want to touch on the 2 most important things that need to be in place in order for you to have successful runs that will just work, will do the work for you as you step away. So the first part is you need to start with a really good code base. So make sure you eliminate any tech debt that you have. If it's a fresh project, implement at least one endpoint that will basically show off the pattern that you want. Make sure you have tests, because it will take inspiration from your repository. I mean, a lot of people think that the context that the agents use is the instructions that you give it or whatever you've got defined in your agent files. In reality, for agentic coding, the code base is your biggest context. So if what you have is a mess, you're going to end up with a bigger mess. So that is step 1. And step 2 is make sure you start with a very detailed plan. So know what you want to do. Especially in the case of a Wiggum loop, just say hey, make a screen will give you very varied results unless you define it very, very specifically of I want this data shown, I want that data shown, I want this endpoint to call that endpoint, have really strong data contracts already defined up front. Okay. So let's talk about run 1. So I made my plan. I gave it to Ralph, and 24 minutes later, it came back and said, "Look, I'm done." It spent around $4, and when I first looked at it, I opened a pull request. First looked at it, I was like, "Yeah, this looks pretty good. It's readable. It's got tests." But obviously I didn't trust it, so I pulled it down and just thought I'll run the app locally. It was just adding a new model. So pulled it down, and straight away I was slapped in the face with a migration error. And I thought, yes, it's not taking my job. But as I kept on looking into the code, I could see like some endpoints were half implemented, didn't fully add the end-to-end test that it should have added for the endpoint that it created. And yeah, it was just a mess. It didn't work. To its benefit, it didn't break anything that was already existing. So that was nice. So then it was time to like look into why it broke why it didn't work in the first place. And when I took a look at the log, you can see the screenshot there. It opened up an issue. It picked up the issue, said that it was in progress, and then implemented it, and then just said that it was done, completely missing the whole quality gate thing that I had set up. I actually had to. I actually had two sets of quality gates. So one was make sure that the code is in working order, and the second one was make sure that you implemented everything that was outlined in the plan. Completely skipped that. And the reason why it did that is because AI will always take the path of least resistance, and I basically failed to make those steps mandatory. Agents are really lazy. Especially the Wiggum loop, like his goal is to complete what you've told him to, and he will try and do it as fast as possible, as simply as possible. And if you're not like really strict with your quality gates, it will just skip them. So, oops. All right. So run 2, electric boogaloo. In this run, all of the quality gates were super mandatory. It took 2 hours to run, which is nice. It only ran in one iteration, and the estimated cost was $9. Yeah, so it was $9. This time it was genuinely reviewing the work, which was nice, but turns out review work and address comments, 2 different commands. I thought it would just understand it. So went back, had to change that again. Also, I noticed that there was a disagreement within my AI agent development team. QA engineer said that it wanted some changes to be implemented. My lead engineer was like, nah, it's fine. And that's why it didn't go back in and check it, which was cool. Also, another issue that came up with this run is it made a front-end change. It was supposed to render a list of users for a drop-down, so a user can like select someone. And it did that, except instead of displaying their name, it just displayed their ID, like the user ID, the GUID, which is very machine-readable, very not human-readable. So to counter that, obviously tightened up the rules once again. And then I took a different approach with the plan, because so far I've just been writing like, this is the feature, this is the outcome, you know, the user must see this, the data must flow that way. Instead, I got my like first initial plan that I had written, and then gave it to Claude Code with the context of the current code base and said, hey, ask me about every single decision that this loop will make. Do not make any assumptions. And it did. It asked me like 20 questions. And it kind of goes back to what Lewis was talking about. If you don't answer all the 20 questions, you don't really know what it will implement. You could read the plan, but the plan is really long. But this way, it's kind of like a double quality gate of, you know, what will happen when. And the bonus of that is your agents now have a whole like agreed upon section of every decision already baked in. And I've also tightened up the rules to say like, this is the only source of truth. Do not make any other decision for me. And yeah, with all of that in, also zero tolerance for laziness in place, I ran my third run, which is run 3, is this autonomy. So this one was our most, oh, my times are messed up, sorry. This one ran 2 hours, the other one ran 48 minutes. Yeah, so this was the good run. If you can squint, you can see the log there where it did an initial implementation. The QA QA engineer came in and said, you know, you're violating a lot of the programming principles, please fix that up. You didn't add these tests. And then the backend engineer picked up that work again, tried it again, and then the QA engineer went in and like reviewed it again. It actually went around the loop around 4 times. It cost $31 just for this one run. But like the change was massive. The code actually worked. It was exactly what I'd wanted it to be. It had proper functional tests. It didn't add any random dead code. And yeah, it was actually policing itself. It was correcting its own mistakes. And this was the first feature that I didn't actually have to edit myself at all. I could just like press merge and deploy to production. So this is the breakdown of all the runs. It kind of looks uncomfortable to look at if you look at like how much that last good run cost and how long it ran for. But to me, this is progress. Like the real difference between having a fast run and having an expensive long run that actually produces something valuable while I was having a nice, lovely long lunch is very good. Yeah, you can build something cheap and fast, or you could build something right one time that actually works. And yeah, all that extra money basically just went into reviewing and fixing its own mistakes. And if the loop didn't do it, I would have had to do it myself. So if you're looking to implement, if you're looking to use the Ralph loop yourself, here are my key takeaways. Fix the code base yourself. Like I said, eliminate any dead code that you've got in there, eliminate any tech debt. Just make sure it's as good as you can get it, because good code means good agentic code. Kill the ambiguity, answer your 20 questions, ask for 60 questions. Just make sure the agents know exactly what they're doing and they don't need to like make any decisions for themselves. Make sure the gates are actually mandatory. You're going to have to scream at it a couple of times to actually get it to run properly. And yeah, just let it iterate. A good run is a slower run. It will cost you a little bit more, but it will save you lots of time having to debug everything yourself. And yeah, so the final question is, could I actually replace myself with AI? Probably I could replace the part of my job that actually writes the code. Yeah, like is good enough. I've given it enough rules. I've basically trained my own personal writing machine or writing team. But I think the true job of a software engineer is someone that takes human pain points and turns them into requirements. And you know, we tried running requirements. We tried getting like Claude to write requirements for us. It skipped it. You still have to like go and speak to people. That part will still remain, and someone needs to review those massive pull requests that are being spat out now. So yeah. Thank you.